at full strength after I was flying solo last week, and we were on vacation the week before. We look a little blurry. Look at that.
Oh no, can we fix that?
It should zero in on where we are. But in any event, I did the Facebook Live Q&A last week myself because Lisa was in court yet again. And that's a theme that we're going to touch on. In fact, Lisa and I are very excited to be launching a new legal abuse support group, which if you look in the link attached to this video, you can find out more there. And we'll touch on that topic, not in our first question, but in the second one today. So
I'm worried about the blur.
Yeah, it's distracting.
I know, I'm seeing ourselves blurry going, is that going to get fixed?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, anyway.
So
we're going to keep going.
We're going to keep going. We'll deal with the adversity.
Yes.
So if I'm sure you know who we are. We start off every week by saying we're been there, got out, and we offer hope, guidance, and community to people suffering in or struggling to get out of relationships with toxic partners so that they can find the strength they need to get their sanity back.
Yeah.
So we're here to help you any way we can. And we like to do these live Q&As every Thursday at noon. And, keep your questions coming. We love getting questions from our audience, whether it's Lisa on Instagram or me on Quora or through our website, our contact us page, or email it anyway. We're very, very easy to reach. So keep your questions coming.
Yeah, I was going to say I got a few this morning after I already was like, our time is going to be full with today. So I'm going to put those on for like the next at least 3 weeks because they're really good questions.
Yeah, keep filling our queue.
Yeah.
So the first one is very short and sweet.
Short and sweet, and the most common question I think that we get, as well as that we, went through ourselves hoping and believing. Yeah. What's the question, Chris?
Can a narcissist change?
Okay. So I'll start first. So we just posted this question on our Instagram feed, and we have so many responses that echoed what I had already planned to talk about, and some other ones which I hadn't considered. So of course you'd think that the first question, your knee-jerk reaction is no, and that's what a lot of people say.
If we had to answer it in one word, right, it would be no.
Well, no, with an asterisk that we're going to get to soon. But I think if you pause, you have to remember that change goes both ways. So you want to say no, it doesn't get better, but yes, it does get worse in some ways. So I think they do change. But the thing with hoping that it gets better, that's sort of a false hope to think that a narcissist can change. But I'll get into that in a little bit. So first of all, I have to thank our Instagram followers because we both so appreciate your wisdom, your insights, and the different perspectives which you bring to the table, because we ourselves learn so much from you, and that makes us even more able and helpful to this entire community. So one of our members who I have a relationship with, because I've talked to her in real life, and she's an expert on child attachment. I liked what she said, and I'm going to note it here. She said that in terms of changing, that narcissists can achieve short-term behavior modifications to serve their own agendas, but long-term change, from what she's learned, is not possible. And she compared it to building a house with a moldy wood frame. How do you fix a house if the whole structure of the house is pathological? You have to tear it down, she says. You have to tear down the narc to the core, which is an atrophied, sick, fearful, emotionally arrested inner self.
Wow.
Yeah. I told you she's an expert on this.
Yeah.
And she's lived through it too. And then, part of this too, which someone else noted, is that they really have no empathy or compassion for anyone else, unless, of course, it benefits them in one way or in another. So with both of those comments, the lines that really stood out for me are, they can change if it serves their own agenda, or if it benefits them in some way. So it's not real change. It's just used as a show to continue manipulating you to get what they want, which is usually to keep you in their grips. jump in anytime, Chris,
Well-
or I'm just going to keep talking.
Well, no, keep going, and
Okay.
I definitely have some things to add. But.
Okay. All right. So another one of our followers, this was kind of a funny response. She said they can change, she thinks, but it requires a lot of work and therapy. So she believes that the traits are there, but they have to learn to manage them. And then she compared it to like when National Geographic has a rare sighting of some species. Though when I followed up with that question, she said maybe once she's seen it, and she said, "Oh, I did say rare." But
It's sort of the exception that proves the rule, right?
Yeah.
You know, like every once in a while you'll hear about one that responded to therapy.
you'll hear about it, but is it ever yours? Like, how often is the one that you know that you're involved with capable of real change? And this led to a couple more responses, which was what I was going to talk about, which get to the idea that these people don't think that anything is actually wrong with them. So if they don't think that something's wrong with them, why would they want to change? And because they don't see anything wrong with them, they're not going to change what they're doing. And they'll do what my ex did to me, which is what most of yours do to you, which is to blame you for the problem. Right. Because they're so perfect. And, you know, as I was thinking about this question, I suddenly remembered, and I swear I haven't thought about this in like at least 10 or more years. My ex had been engaged before me. And he told me, long before I knew about narcissism, that his ex-fiance used to call him Mr. Perfect.
Oh my God.
I know. It's like something just clicked.
I don't think you've told me that before.
I know, because I hadn't thought about it, because I haven't thought of it since before I was even with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Crazy.
I know.
Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, Mr. Perfect. And it just fits. So another person on Quora noted that even if they do actually want to change, which again, we think they do, because they want something, that it's rare for them to stick with the process for years on end. And it is far easier for them to lie and cheat, which is their lifestyle pattern. So again, you might want to jump in, because I'm going to keep going to the...
Well, I mean, you know, so all I was going to say is that, you know, it was interesting what you said about it cutting both ways, because mine certainly did change when we separated.
Right.
She just didn't have to put on the act anymore. Mm-hmm. You know, she got just unrestrained in her nastiness and aggression, just didn't have the mask on anymore.
Exactly. That was the thing I first thought about when I thought about how it changes when you split up, is the mask often comes off. Yep. So, and there were some references in the comments as well that people said that they get worse after you separate. And that I found in my own experience in some ways. What was interesting was during my divorce, which ended up taking a full year, if any of you who followed us for a while already know, but I had a very good divorce attorney. He was a really decent human being, and he had a paralegal work for him. And in the beginning of my whole case, I would talk to the paralegal occasionally on the phone, and I would say to her, I can't understand, like, why he's not cooperating. Like, why is he behaving like this? And remember, at the time, I knew nothing about narcissism. I didn't realize I was coming out of an abusive relationship. This was years and years ago. And she said something that always stuck with me. And she said that during divorce, the power struggle gets 10 times worse. Mm-hmm. And I think that line can be applied to, in some ways, when you finally exit a toxic relationship or a relationship with a narcissist, you see struggles that you had while you were still together, and they just compound. So I know with my ex in general, you know, you've probably heard me say the line off, no, I thought I was married to my best friend, and, you know, we didn't really fight that often. I had I was dealing with a covert narcissist. So
that's one thing that's different.
Very different.
Mine was very overt and very aggressive, and it was a lot. I used to call our house Fallujah after the city in Iraq.
Yeah, see,
it was conflict all the time.
I didn't have that. I had, like, the conflict was under the surface for the large portion of my marriage for nearly 18 years. And but something that always existed in our relationship was this stubbornness. He was very, very stubborn, and he absolutely hated to feel like he was being controlled by me. And he would talk about it all the time. Like, even if I just asked him to do a simple household task, He would say, I don't want to do it. You're trying to control me. And I would just be like, why can't you just like pick up your socks? Like, what's the big deal? And he'd be like, you're not controlling me. You should have said it in a different way. You didn't use the right tone, etc. So in terms of changing since exiting the relationship and how things have gotten worse, I think his stubbornness has gotten so extreme that it's like he's trying to prove some point that nobody really understands anymore. And he's completely lost sense of perhaps what's important to him, though I'm not the person to judge what's important to him. But nobody understands why he's behaving the way he does. But I feel that the biggest sacrifice he's made with this stubbornness that has gotten worse is he's completely lost his relationship with our children, because he's, unable to change except for the worst, and his complete lack of empathy is really showing itself. He hasn't changed, but my kids have changed in these past several years. They've grown up, and fortunately for them, but unfortunately for him, they have stopped seeing him as a loving person, and instead they see him as pathetic, and that's been, I think, his downfall.
Yeah, that's one of the real surprising things. I mean, Lisa and I have been together almost 6 years. In just a few days, it'll be 6 years.
Yeah.
And I pictured when our relationship started that we would be, that your ex would be a figure in our lives, and I would have conversations with him and that kind of thing, and he's just gone.
Right.
Totally gone. He abdicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you want me to jump in?
Jump in.
Yeah.
It's your turn,
So-
Chris.
So
We're still blurry. I'm like, why are we still blurry?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway.
So you cover a lot of ground there, of course. But what I'd add in my case is that my ex, she knew there was something wrong, that she had like a mental health issue of some kind. She didn't know what it was. She thought it was depression. So she would get, she went to therapy and she got treated. She was even on medication for a while. But, and I think a lot of times narcissism can look like depression. It can present, to use a term, we're not psychologists, but to use a term that psychologists often use, it can present like depression. So she at least tried to get help for that. But as far as I know, she's never been officially diagnosed with narcissism. It certainly wasn't before we split up. And the behavior towards me, as I said, what's left of interaction, because I'm almost all no contact, has gotten just worse, because like the mask isn't on anymore.
Yeah.
She's not bothering to sugarcoat anything.
Yeah. So our answer might not, our short answer might not just be no to can a narcissist change.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, I sort of interpreted that question as, can they change for the better?
Right. I think that's what most people do, because we want to believe that the relationship can be salvaged, but I don't think so. I don't think they change for the better.
So moving on, you want me to read this next one?
Yes.
Okay. Why does the legal system allow my abuser to keep taking me back to court, even though he keeps making up lies in order to do so?
I am so glad that this person asked this question, because this has been the biggest topic that we focused on this past week. But Chris, you go first, since I monopolized the last question.
So I'll try not to monopolize that much.
That's okay.
So as bad as my legal situation was, and my divorce took 3 years, everybody who's been around, been there, got out, has heard me say this 1,000 times.
Yep.
Took 3 years and cost $300,000 for no good reason at all. She was just enjoying the fight. It was all about a power and control struggle. That's what it always is. So this is, one system in which the legal system worked okay for me, one way in which it worked okay for me. So after the long fight, we finally settled. And then 10 days later, 10 days after our agreement was finalized, she filed papers to completely change everything in terms of custody of our kids. And if you remember, I was panicked, right? Remember that when that happened?
Yeah.
I'm in a totally different state of mind now. But her filing was packed with lies, as you said in the question, right? Or as I said in the question, because I asked it. But fortunately, the judge wanted none of it and basically lambasted her for trying to reopen something that had just been settled. So it was over in one single day, in one hearing. We went in.
Well, that part,
right. That's what I'm saying, that, because the question was about dragging you back.
Right.
So I,
like, why is
I
it
was
allowed?
dragged back, but that part worked. So if only that were true during the divorce process itself, I could have saved a small fortune, tons of time, tons of emotional anguish, if I knew back then everything I know now. And I think that's why it's so important. This section is the shameless plug, right? So it's so important to get support from people who get it, as far as the unique challenges of being in the legal system with the toxic ex, right? And Lisa and I are starting the legal abuse support group for this exact reason. And, as I said, getting a little plug in for that here. We're meeting on Sundays at noon, Eastern time, right? We're in the New York area, starting April 25th. So a week and a few days, week and a half from now. And you can learn more. The link is right in, should be showing on the Facebook page, but if not, it's beenthere.com/legal-abuse-support-group. All right. And you can just learn more there. So, this is, I'll just give you an example of the kind of practical knowledge that you'll get. It's not just support, but it's knowledge. It's things that you can use to, help yourself if you're in legal hell with the toxic ex. So my divorce agreement here in New York, it's called a stipulation. It's different from state to state. There's a clause in it about summer vacations with the kids. And it seems so innocent. The language isn't, it's not entirely clear, although two reasonable parties would certainly, could work with it without a problem, right? But toxic people aren't reasonable. And this seemingly minor bit of language has led to all kinds of problems with our vacation scheduling.
Every year. Single year.
Every year. It's a fight, and it's murky, and I'm worried about going back to court every year. So she's basically weaponized the language to make things difficult for us when we're just trying to have a vacation with our kids, But the lesson in there is that you need to make sure that everything in any legal agreement you sign is super, super clear.
Right.
Don't leave any gray area at
right.
all.
And before I get back to just briefly answering the original question too, I was thinking about how significant language is when you're dealing with legal documents in the court system. And I have a couple of ideas for people to interview, including perhaps, if he allows me to, again, my former divorce attorney, because when we were going through the process, he said it is extremely important that I write the agreement because I want to make sure the language is precise. And the language that he used in that agreement years and years ago is what has saved me. It has been solid, and it has allowed me to win my motions for modification up of alimony and child support. It has protected me. It has been referred to as protective language, and I am so glad that I had that, and that's a benefit that I will certainly share with people in our support group. But the original question about why is this allowed? This is a question that I have asked myself, that I hear from people stuck in the system constantly, and I've asked experts, lawyers in the system, people who, are victims advocates, like, how can this be allowed? Like, why can they just keep bringing you back to court? Like, why don't judges recognize legal abuse and do something to stop it? And basically what I've been told in summation is that in the United States in particular, everyone has a right to sue. Everyone has a right to have their voice heard. So unfortunately, the way that our system is built, this means that people can petition for all kinds of things, and usually it takes a very long time and with the same judge or something similar, and that you have to document very well to show that somebody is filing what's called vexatious litigation or frivolous motions in order to make it stop. And the justice system, everything operates so slowly, as anyone who's in it knows. And this is why a lot of people give up. And the purpose of the legal abuse support group is, like me, who's been in it for 7 years, and I know some of you have said you're in it for 17 and 18 years.
Yeah, you got so many comments.
Oh,
I think one of your questions was, how long have you been in the legal system?
I know.
And people are responding like, well, it's 8 years for me. It's 12 years for me.
Yeah. So, but for people like us, it becomes a lifestyle, and you cannot put everything else aside and only be in survival mode, because that's not the way to live. So I figured out a way to balance it. I know other survivors who have dealt with it as well. But the thing is, there's no making it go away. You can't, there's no quick answer. So hopefully with this new legal abuse support group, we can help each other and teach each other ways to basically like train for this marathon and keep going and not give up, because it's really, really
support
important.
is so essential.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So, of course, I'm always like, Chris, we should do shorter ones, because this
This one's pretty short.
Yeah, so
20 minutes.
Yeah, so I think we're only going to handle these 2 questions today. Like I said, we got some more questions in that I already know, like, the next 3 weeks which questions we're going to start with.
Great.
Yeah, I'm very excited. But keep sending.
Yeah, keep filling our queue.
Yes.
We love hearing from you, however it is that you choose to get in touch with us.
Yes.
right.
I think I see some comments, maybe. What
Let's
is
see.
that?
Where?
Am I looking at the wrong thing? Over there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah. Someone said the relationship with their children ends. Well, with some of them, we're jumping back again to, I think, talking about my my ex. Yes, some of them do. Many of them, unfortunately, end the relationship with the children.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's like a whole other topic.
Right. And that's very different in our situations. I share custody about 50-50.
Yeah. We have 50-50.
And that was really important to me.
Right. But we have 50-50 legal custody. He has never actually used his visitation or stuck to the parenting agreement, and it's been several years. So yeah, unfortunately. But if you want to, I won't say your name, but if you want to ask more questions about that, we can definitely pick it up during another Q&A or some other time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Thursday.
And hopefully we haven't stayed blurry. Okay.